Yunjian only found out about this after she walked into the large private room of the swing bar with a group of people. It was not hard to see that Mo Buffon's family background was good. Brother Kai's family background was so good that the gifts he usually gave girls were gold necklaces, silver rings and other luxurious items. Mo Buffon and Brother Kai were good brothers who grew up together, so their family background naturally couldn't be bad. Birds of a feather flocked together. Otherwise, they wouldn't have known each other since they were young. There were large private rooms in the swing bar, but the private rooms in the bar were more expensive. The private rooms were also equipped with karaoke equipment and facilities. As soon as Yunjian, Mo Buffon and the other members of the martial arts club entered the large private room, they heard Brother Kai and the others holding a microphone and singing crazily in front of the big screen of karaoke. The karaoke at that time was similar to the karaoke of today. The atmosphere in the room reached its climax. Everyone followed the beat and sang with Brother Kai. No one noticed Yunjian. At this time, Yunjian saw Ma Xiao in the corner. He put his notebook on his lap and waved to Yunjian. Yunjian walked over. "Boss, hurry up and teach me how to make the strongest new defense system." Ma Xiao seemed to have picked up a big opportunity. He handed his notebook to Yunjian and looked at her expectantly. Yunjian took Ma Xiao's notebook, paused, and then added, "I'll help you strengthen the defense system and deduct 3 months of your salary." After Yunjian said that, Ma Xiao looked at Yunjian in pain and begged, "Don't do that, boss. 3 months of salary. I'll have to eat the northwest wind. No hacker in the world can break the defense system I set up. Isn't it worth it to deduct 3 months of your salary?" Yunjian glared at Ma Xiao. Okay. You're the boss. You have the final say." Ma Xiao covered his face and nodded. Yunjian smiled and put her hands on the notebook keyboard. However, before Yunjian could operate the brand new defense system that Matthew was halfway through setting up, a female voice rang out at the wrong time with deliberate words. "Hey, she knows how to operate a computer? Everyone, look." The girl who spoke was called Lan Yi. Lan Yi was the one who insulted Yunjian in the self-study room to please Brother Kai. Brother Kai warned Lan Yi because she insulted Yunjian in the self-study room. Lan Yi was a very vengeful person, so she hated Yunjian. Yunjian walked to Ma Xiao's side and took the notebook from him. Lan Yi saw it. Yunjian knows how to use a notebook? Lan Yi didn't believe it. At this time, Lan Yi was holding a microphone and singing with a boy. However, she stopped abruptly in the middle of her song and drew everyone's attention to Yunjian with the microphone in her hand. Chapter 1973. Lan Yi held the microphone and put her mouth to the microphone. Her voice was transmitted through the microphone to the speakers and amplified to the ears of everyone present. Therefore, no matter how loud the karaoke sound system was, no matter how noisy the people around were, they could still hear Lan Yi's words. At the same time, they looked at Yunjian and Matthew, who had deliberately hidden themselves in the corner. Seeing that everyone had turned to look at Yunjian and Matthew, Lan Yi smirked at Yunjian, who was sitting in the corner. Lan Yi thought that Yunjian knew Matthew and wanted Matthew to secretly teach her how to use the computer. Then, she could show off her computer skills in front of everyone. Therefore, Lan Yi attracted everyone's attention to Yunjian. She wanted to embarrass Yunjian in front of everyone. It had to be said that Lan Yi's thoughts belonged to the mentality of a normal young girl. Young girls would always feel a little jealous when they saw girls who were more outstanding than them or girls who were better than them. However, some girls would spread their jealousy, some would deliberately hurt others, and some would just silently hide their jealousy in their hearts. Lan Yi belonged to the kind of girl who was afraid of not causing enough trouble. Yunjian didn't pay attention to her before, but Lan Yi thought that Yunjian was indirectly provoking her. Without a doubt, Lan Yi's goal was achieved. Everyone turned to look at Yunjian. Lan Yi's smile became even more obvious. Yunjian had just put her hands on the laptop keyboard when she heard Lan Yi's words. Her eyes flashed sharply. The people around her had already turned to look at her. Wow, Junior. You just came to university and you already know how to use a computer? Amazing. Zhou Huntao was the first to walk over and look at Yunjian. Most of the people present were computer science students. The freshmen who had just entered the university this semester were generally still practicing how to turn on and off a computer. Computers in this era had just started. In 2000, the electronic technology in Z country would soar at the speed of a rocket in a short period of time. Many of the students present had never touched a computer. Yunjian was a freshman. Everyone thought that she had never touched a computer before. Some of the sophomores and juniors present had already taken computer classes and had a certain understanding of computers. Although they were not new to it, they did not have a deep understanding of it. Yunjian, a freshman, actually knows how to use a laptop? When everyone saw this, they all turned to look at him. She's a busybody. You've been acting up since just now. I think she's trying to attract our president's attention. His trick of loosening the reins only to grasp them better is really impressive. The girl from the martial arts club who had met Yunjian on the way couldn't help but say such harsh words. This girl is so annoying. Keep showing off. I feel like she doesn't have any ability at all. You only know how to put on an act. So annoying. Exactly. Yunjian had previously made everyone feel that she was very strong, but they didn't know which part of her was strong. Because of this, she attracted the attention of Mo Bufan and Brother Kai, who were held at the peak by the girls. Therefore, the girls were jealous of Yunjian. At this moment, they all started to grumble. Zhou Huntao, who heard this, also felt quite awkward. Mo Bufan frowned. He felt that girls shouldn't have such hostility towards other girls. Mo Bufan was just about to say something when he saw that Yunjian didn't care about the girls' hostility towards her at all. She also didn't care that Lan Yi had attracted everyone's attention to her just now. Since she was seen, Yunjian, who didn't want to be high profile, was helpless. She only smiled coldly. In the next second, in front of everyone, Yunjian's slender fingers on the laptop keyboard started tapping. Everyone saw that on the laptop screen on Yunjian's lap, a series of system programs that no one could understand started flashing at the speed of light. Yunjian didn't even need to look at the keyboard to be able to feel the keys on the keyboard. This speed of operating a computer was something that couldn't be done without a few years of computer operating skills. Even if they didn't understand what Yunjian was operating, when they saw this scene, everyone was slightly shocked and widened their eyes. She knows how to use a computer. Moreover, as a freshman, he could operate the computer so smoothly. Even the seniors in their third and fourth years who had been learning how to operate computers for 3 to 4 years couldn't do it. However, just as Lan Yi and the surrounding people were stunned, they saw Matthew, who was sitting next to Yunjian, looking at the laptop screen excitedly. In front of everyone, he shouted at Yunjian. You're indeed a boss. Why didn't I think of it? Using this set of procedures to set up the program is the most effective way to defend against other hackers' intrusion. Boss, you're too amazing. I'm sure that in this world, other than you, there are no hackers who can break through the defense system of our company's technical department. Haha. Boss, you're indeed the #1 person in our hacker circle. A. Chapter 1974. Although Matthew was only in his 40s, being able to sit in the position of the head of the Rongyao Company's technical department at his age was already very impressive. Matthew's age and his current position could scare a large number of international elites to death. The temperament that Matthew exuded from his bones was that of an old urchin. Some people were still young, but their hearts were already old, and their actions were no different from that of an old urchin's. This was referring to Matthew. Although Matthew's strength could not be denied, his behavior was sometimes really out of his control. For example, just now, outsiders did not know what Yunjian was doing. They only knew that Yunjian's operation was particularly amazing. However, Matthew knew that Yunjian was setting up the defense system of the Rongyao Company's technical department, and the defense system she set up had 0 loopholes. The possibility of outsiders finding a flaw in the defense system was equivalent to 0. This was simply a miracle in the world. At least, people like Matthew were completely shocked when they saw this. Matthew's temperament was like an old urchin's. When he saw such a scene, he would say all the words in his heart. As a matter of fact, Matthew the fool had shouted at Yunjian in front of everyone in the room. Originally, Yunjian's speed of operating the computer was so fast that it amazed everyone present. However, no one present knew what Yunjian was doing. In the eyes of Lan Yi, Zhou Huntao, Mo Bufan, Brother Kai, and the others, the various programs flashing on the laptop screen were more like Yunjian's random keys. However, this group of people were not experts and did not understand these, but Matthew did. With Matthew's roar, everyone understood what was going on. After hearing Matthew's words, everyone was in a trance for a moment and was stunned on the spot. Even the few boys who had been singing crazily and brought the atmosphere to the climax were dumbfounded and looked over in a daze. Only the accompaniment of the karaoke continued. At this moment, whether it was Lan Yi, Zhou Huntao, Mo Bufan, or Brother Kai, they were all stunned. Among them, Lan Yi's expression was the most prominent. She listened to Matthew's words in a daze and couldn't recover for a long time. Matthew actually called Yun Jian boss? Wasn't that the title of a certain company's CEO? And Yun Jian was setting up a defense system that could prevent other hackers from invading? Listen to what Matthew says. No one in this world could crack the defense system set up by Yun Jian? And Matthew said that Yun Jian was indeed the #1 hacker in the hacker circle. #1 in the hacker circle? Brother Kai was particularly interested in this matter. Before the people around him could speak, Brother Kai had already looked at Matthew in astonishment and asked the doubts of the people around him. The #1 person in the hacker circle. I remember that the most skilled hacker is a hacker with the code name SS? As soon as Brother Kai finished speaking, Mo Bufan, who was Brother Kai's brother, added a sentence. Most of the people present were computer science students, so they were naturally interested in hacking. The computer courses taught in school naturally wouldn't teach hackers how to hack others. Only some smart people would apply all their knowledge to hacking according to the computer courses they learned in school. Even so, it couldn't stop the level of interest of the people present in hacking. After hearing Mo Bufan's words, the surrounding people shifted their eyes to Yun Jian again. Wasn't the #1 hacker in the hacker circle the person with the code name SS? Just now, Matthew actually called Yun Jian the #1 hacker in the hacker circle. Could it be that Yun Jian was? Mo Fei was sitting in the corner. This beautiful girl was the #1 hacker in the hacker circle. It was fine if you were outstanding, but when you were outstanding to a certain extent, a realm that others could not reach, then you were finished because you would become the public enemy. Yun Jian's beauty was something that all the girls wanted but could never achieve. Therefore, Lan Yi and the others didn't like Yun Jian, let alone Yun Jian who was so outstanding. However, Yun Jian didn't care about what the people around her were saying or doing. Her fingers nimbly operated on the keyboard of the laptop. The data of the defense system on the laptop screen was flashing at the speed of light, and it even made a DDD sound. After about 10 minutes of operation, Yun Jian closed the laptop and tossed it to Matthew, telling him openly in front of everyone, "I'm not going to lie. I have strengthened the defense system for you by 50 times. The system is complete. You can use it when you take it back. Remember to report to the finance department that you have deducted 3 months of salary. Don't feel like you've lost money. The market price of the simplest defense system I made is 100 million yuan. The one I made for you is an enhanced version. You should pay me. A. Obviously, this boy's name was Zhou Zhang, and he usually hung out with Brother Kai and the others. To be honest, although Brother Kai was a rich second-generation heir, he was not very handsome. He was not very tall, but he was not short either. When necessary, Brother Kai would still stand up and say a few words of justice. This surprised Yun Jian. However, Yun Jian did not show her surprise on her face. Okay, let's sing. She is someone that Master Matthew knows. How can she be bad? Brother Kai waved to the crowd. After all, Brother Kai's family was rich, powerful, and influential. After listening to Brother Kai's words, the surrounding people obediently dispersed. Everyone continued to sing, drink, and eat desserts. They were having a lot of fun. It was as if the shock just now was just a farce. However, the crowd did not know that the real shock had not yet begun. In the corner, Matthew carefully put the notebook that Yun Jian returned to him back into the notebook bag. Seeing that no one was paying attention to him and Yun Jian, Matthew secretly said to Yun Jian, "Boss, our company's fox recently came to Z country to look for you. I don't know why she came to look for you. At that time, she refused to come with me, saying that she disliked me because I looked stupid. A. It's just a fall. Is there a need to act like this?" After ridiculing her, Lan Yi turned to look at Yun Jian. Yun Jian, who was standing in front of everyone, had a slight flash in her eyes. In the next second, 2 extremely fast figures suddenly appeared in front of everyone. These 2 figures, each holding a weapon, suddenly appeared in front of everyone like special agents in the movies. Both of them were in an extremely sorry state. The baby-faced woman who was being chased had many scratches on her body. It was obvious that the two of them had been fighting for a long time. Moreover, the baby-faced woman was almost no match for the other woman who was chasing her. What are they doing? Are they killing people? Lan Yi, Zhou Huntao, Mo Bufan, and the others who didn't know the situation suddenly saw the scene and were so frightened that their faces changed. These two women who suddenly appeared were very skilled. Everyone present could tell at a glance that they were definitely martial artists. At this moment, the two women were fighting like special agents in the movies. Their movements were astonishingly fast. Facts. Matthew shouted at the baby-faced woman who was obviously at a disadvantage and had many injuries on her body. Master Matthew, do you know this person? Although Mo Bufan and the others were shocked, Mo Bufan still stood up and asked Matthew softly. Just as he finished asking, Mo Bufan clenched his fists and said to the boys of the martial arts club, "Boys, come with me to help." Regardless of anything else, just based on the fact that Matthew knew the baby-faced woman, as a boy, Mo Bufan didn't want to see any casualties. Mo Bufan and the others were naturally not. This was a showdown between assassins. They couldn't interfere at all. However, just as Bufan was about to lead the boys of the martial arts club to rush over there to help, he saw a small, nimble, and powerful figure that dazzled everyone was already one step ahead of everyone and rushing over there. In front of everyone, Yun Jian kicked the woman who was chasing after Fox to the ground. Then, a butterfly knife suddenly appeared in her hand. Yun Jian's fast and frightening skills stunned Mo Bufan and the others. However, they saw Yun Jian holding the butterfly knife and pointing the blade at the woman who was chasing after Fox. In front of everyone, she said something that no one could understand. "You dare to touch my people? You're really bold. Which organization are you from? Tell me your name." Chapter 1978. Not to mention that Yun Jian was so smart. Even a fool would know that Fox was being chased by someone. The woman who was chasing Fox had obviously been chasing Fox for a long time. On the way to the swing bar, Yun Jian felt that something was wrong. It seemed that the gunpowder smell that she smelled on the way here came from Fox and this woman. At this moment, the woman obviously knew that Fox was from the Rongyao company and was from the Kosha mercenaries, so she attacked Fox. Fortunately, Fox and the civet cat were both assassins. However, Fox was later sent to the Rongyao company by Yun Jian, while the civet cat followed Snake Lizard and worked in the Kosha mercenaries. In comparison, Fox's skills were weaker than the civet cat's, but even so, this woman chased Fox for several hours and still couldn't get rid of him. It was obvious that Fox's skills weren't weak. At this moment, after Yun Jian kicked the woman to the ground, the sound of her questioning the woman with the butterfly knife in her hand spread throughout the venue. In the scene just now, Yun Jian's attack was too fast, and the butterfly knife was too violent, so everyone present was stunned for a long time before they reacted. By the time they realized what was going on, the boys from the martial arts club who had planned to help, Mo Bufan, Zhou Huntao, Zhou Zhang who had been rude to Yun Jian in the private room, and Zhu Huili who was with Yun Jian, were all stunned. Even Brother Kai, as well as Lan Yi who spoke rudely to Yun Jian and wanted to deal with Yun Jian, were all stunned. Not for anything else, but for Yun Jian's frightening skills. One had to know that even the president of the martial arts club, Mo Bufan, couldn't react immediately, but Yun Jian. She actually kicked the woman who was chasing Fox away before Mo Bufan made a move. Just based on this point, Yun Jian's skills were definitely above Mo Bufan's. One had to know how fast Fox was when he was fighting with that woman. That speed was comparable to the assassins in the movies. Just now, Yun Jian had kicked the woman away in a way that was faster and more frightening than this. It could be said that if it wasn't for Yun Jian, even if Mo Bufan and the rest rushed up to stop the Fox and the woman, they would only be sending themselves to their deaths. This scene made everyone who had previously thought that Yun Jian was arrogant and wanted to snatch Mo Bufan's position as the president of the Martial Arts Society. She had even used words to attack Yun Jian. All of them were stunned and their facial expressions stiffened. She. Zhou Zhang, who had just spoken ill of Yun Jian, was shocked beyond words. Everyone present stared with their eyes wide open. After all, Yun Jian was just a university student like them, and a freshman at that. While everyone was still in a daze, Yun Jian had already pulled up the woman lying on the ground. She placed the butterfly knife on the woman's neck. At this moment, she was like the Grim Reaper, interrogating the woman. "You don't want to say? I have plenty of ways to make you confess." Seeing Yun Jian place the butterfly knife on the woman's neck, Mo Bufan and the rest, who didn't know the situation, thought that Yun Jian was going to attack the woman for no reason. Thus Mo Bufan hurriedly said, "Calm down." Compared to Mo Bufan's calmness, although Lan Yi was afraid, she still wasn't willing to accept Yun Jian's amazing strength. Lan Yi still thought that Yun Jian was pretending. Thus, Lan Yi mustered up her courage and said to Yun Jian, "What are you pretending for? Do you need to use such methods to get Brother Kai and Senior Bufan's attention? Your two extras are pretty good. Their acting skills aren't bad." However, before Lan Yi could finish speaking, Yun Jian's butterfly knife had already slid into the woman's neck in front of everyone. The knife was pulled back in time. Yun Jian's face was cold. Under the dumbfounded gazes of the group of people behind her, she continued to speak to the woman. This time, she had already confirmed the woman's identity. "Reverse Emperor's organization, right? I haven't done anything to Reverse Emperor's organization yet, and you guys came to me first. Are you in a hurry to die? A." Chapter 1979. Yun Jian had already guessed the woman's origin. In fact, it was obvious that this woman was an assassin from Reverse Emperor. Now, except for the newly established Reverse Emperor, no one dared to do anything to her people. This woman was too much. She didn't say a word when Yun Jian interrogated her. It was obvious that she had been brainwashed by Reverse Emperor. At this moment, the butterfly knife in Yun Jian's hand had already cut the woman's neck. The butterfly knife slid into the woman's skin and cut open her skin, causing bright red blood to flow out. The woman was suppressed by Yun Jian and couldn't resist at all. Lan Yi, who insisted that Yun Jian deliberately found someone to act as her to attract everyone's attention, was so scared that she screamed, "Ah!" Yun Jian held the butterfly knife and was about to send the blade to the woman's neck. Wasn't she afraid of killing people? At this moment, it was impossible to say that Fox and this woman were deliberately invited by Yun Jian to act in front of everyone. How could anyone pretend to be like this? What's more, Mo Bufan clearly felt Yun Jian's strength. With her speed just now, let alone one, even 10 of him might not be a match for her. No wonder she asked to join the martial arts club and asked to be the club president. Mo Bufan's eyes flashed at this moment, and he had his own plan. Since Yun Jian had already guessed the woman's origin, she didn't want to keep her alive. But when she heard Lan Yi and the others scream, Yun Jian's eyes darkened again. The blade stopped just as it was about to slit the woman's neck. Pulling her hand back in time, Yun Jian spun the butterfly knife and retracted the blade. Folding the handles on both sides of the butterfly knife, she gripped the handles agilely and smashed them at the back of the woman's neck. The woman didn't even have a chance to resist in Yun Jian's hands and fainted. Yun Jian directly threw the woman in front of Matthew and said to him, "Deal with her." Yun Jian originally wanted to slit the woman's throat, but Lan Yi's scream stopped Yun Jian from doing so. After all, she still had to stay in the university. If she killed a woman in front of Mo Bufan and the others, even if she had 2 hours of amnesia liquid, it would be inconvenient to use the 2 hours of amnesia liquid to erase people's memories every time. At this moment, Yun Jian threw the woman to Matthew and turned to look at the fox. Everyone was dumbfounded and had no idea what was going on. When Yun Jian turned her head to look at the fox, the surrounding people looked over curiously. The fox had been chased by the woman the entire way. The fox's strength was not as strong as the woman's, but it was not much weaker. Therefore, after being chased all the way, it had suffered quite a few injuries. Since Yun Jian had smelled the gunpowder of the pistol earlier, it proved that the fox and the woman had used firearms when they were fighting. Chapter 1980. Yun Jian had never been a good person. Her people were being hunted by Reverse Emperor and they were already bullying her. If she did not retaliate, she would not be Slaying God anymore. Slaying God had always been a vengeful person who would repay kindness. She would never shrink back. That was who she was. There were 3 team leaders in the Kosha mercenaries. They were the intelligence team leader, the assassination team leader, and the investigation team leader. As the name suggested, the 3 team leaders were highly respected in the Kosha mercenaries other than Snake, Lizard and Tiger, Leopard. The status of the 3 team leaders was similar to Qing Yu's in Gu Sha mercenaries. As for the areas that the 3 team leaders were in charge of, they were categorized. For example, the intelligence team leader was in charge of collecting information. The information that Yun Jian could obtain from the Kosha mercenaries was from the Kosha mercenaries intelligence team. The person in charge of the Kosha mercenaries intelligence team was the intelligence team leader. On the other hand, the assassination team was in charge of all the assassinations, missions, and mercenaries of the Kosha mercenaries. The investigation team was a team that carried out a series of investigative activities such as tracking and anti-tracking. It could be said that the three team leaders of the Kosha mercenaries were crucial. Yun Jian's motive for summoning the three of them to Rivertown was obvious. Reverse Emperor had climbed to a higher position in the organization after 2 years of development. As a member of the Kosha mercenaries, Slaying God had summoned the three team leaders of the Enhun group. It meant that she, Slaying God, was declaring war on Reverse Emperor. Therefore, Matthew and Fox, who knew what Yun Jian meant, blinked in shock when they heard Yun Jian's words. As for Mo Bufan, Brother Kai, Lan Yi, and the rest who were standing around, they were stunned as well. The crowd was surprised, but not because of what Yun Jian said. It was because, when Yun Jian was done speaking to the person on the other end of the phone, she hung up without waiting for a response. "You can actually speak a foreign language?" Zhou Huntao looked at Yun Jian and asked on behalf of everyone else in shock. Hearing Zhou Huntao's words, everyone present held their breaths and looked at Yun Jian, as if they wanted to hear Yun Jian's reply. What Yun Jian said just now was obviously not in English. It was a foreign language that no one present could understand. One had to know that youngsters nowadays generally did not like to study. Learning English, which was compulsory in school, was already killing them. Although the people present could not understand Yun Jian's language just now, the standard pronunciation of her foreign language was so standard that everyone present could tell at once. Yun Jian was indeed speaking a foreign language. Therefore, when they heard Yun Jian's words, everyone present was stunned. Yun Jian responded softly to Zhou Huntao and threw the phone to Mo Bufan. After all, Mo Bufan had learned martial arts, taekwondo, and other kung fu for so many years. He caught the phone that Yun Jian threw over. "Then which country's language did you just speak?" Zhou Huntao continued to ask Yun Jian with interest. "Italian," Yun Jian pursed her lips and replied. Then, she took Fox to the hospital. Seeing this, Mo Bufan and the others also followed. Along the way, Zhou Huntao and the other members of the martial arts club were very interested in Yun Jian. One by one, they began to ask Yun Jian various questions in the form of a series of questions. Of course, many of them did not get a response from Yun Jian. After seeing Yun Jian's skills, the people of the martial arts club were not angry anymore. After Fox came out of the hospital, Yun Jian arranged for her to stay in a hotel for the time being. After Matthew dealt with the woman who was sent to assassinate Fox, he carried his laptop, which had a new system installed by Yun Jian, back to Rongyao Company overnight. After returning to the dormitory, Miao Li and Shi Shujuan were smoking one after another, which seriously polluted the air in the dormitory. Yun Jian's eyes darkened. Early the next morning, Zhu Huili and Yun Jian just left the dormitory building and were about to go to the classroom for their morning class. As soon as they went down the dormitory building, they saw Mo Bufan standing under a big tree not far away. Many girls around saw Mo Bufan appear and whispered softly, wondering who Mo Bufan was waiting for. Seeing Yun Jian appear, Mo Bufan walked over to Yun Jian. The surrounding girls who were hiding in the corner and secretly looking at Mo Bufan with shy eyes all secretly glanced and whispered, "Who is that girl? I don't think I've seen her before." Senior Bufan is actually waiting for her to go to the morning class in person? Before the girls were done being envious, however, they saw Mo Bufan pass a document to Yun Jian and say to her, "Yun Jian, you're a genius. From today onwards, the martial arts club will be handed over to you. I admit that I am not as good as you, so you will be the president." That's right. Why is it the other way around today? From what I see, that girl seems to have promised our senior Bufan. More and more girls started gossiping. Of course, Yun Jian wasn't listening. After collecting the information, Yun Jian bypassed Mo Bufan and went to the morning class with Zhu Huili. In the following days, Yun Jian didn't meet Jian Ning, who she had met on the plane. Maybe Jian Ning hadn't entered the school yet. When Yun Jian came to school, it was already September 18th. In the following days, Yun Jian didn't talk to Fox, giving him time to recuperate. The 3 team leaders of the Kosha mercenaries wouldn't come to Jiang City to look for Yun Jian so soon. Yun Jian didn't give any urgent orders, so the 3 of them naturally settled everything in the organization before heading to Jiang City. At that time, the Mid-Autumn Festival was approaching and the school had a 3-day holiday. Yun Jian and Zhu Huili dragged their suitcases and walked towards the school gate. During these few days in school, Yun Jian got up early in the morning to run. Zhu Huili also ran with her. Although Zhu Huili couldn't run fast, she worked very hard to lose weight. At the same time, the relationship between Zhu Huili and Yun Jian was gradually getting closer. Then, Yun Jian, let's part ways here, Zhu Huili told Yun Jian softly since they were taking different routes home. Yun Jian nodded and Zhu Huili turned to leave with her suitcase. Yun Jian was just about to drag her suitcase in the opposite direction when she was interrupted. Suddenly, a slender and large hand with distinct bones grabbed the suitcase for her while another large hand held her other hand. The familiar fresh scent wafted into Yun Jian's nose. In front of the passers-by on the street, the person took Yun Jian's luggage from her by hugging her from the back and held her hand easily. When the familiar handsome face appeared before Yun Jian, the thin lips under the handsome face moved slightly. Ce smiled and held Yun Jian's hand like a newlywed couple, squeezing it and saying, Xiao Jian, I'm here to take you home. A. Chapter 1982. The Mid-Autumn Festival was a national holiday. Yun Jian had just packed her things today and left the school gate with Zhu Huili, heading back to their respective homes. After Zhu Huili left, Yun Jian was about to pick up her suitcase when it was taken away by Ce. Ce was holding her hand as he said what he said just now. Yun Jian's smile lifted slightly when she saw Ce. She clasped Ce's large palm with her own and walked towards Ce's Lamborghini. Ce put Yun Jian's suitcase in the narrow back seat of the Lamborghini. After Yun Jian got into the front passenger seat, he started the engine and the car sped away like a bolt of lightning. Ce had not seen Yun Jian for a few days since he came back the last time. Now that he saw her again, he could not be more in love with her. Ce was different from other men. Some people said that 2 people would get tired of being together for a long time, especially couples who were very loving before marriage. After being together for a long time after marriage, the man would develop a sense of weariness toward the woman. The sense of weariness here was usually when the man got to know the woman like the back of his hand and felt bored, so he went out in search of novelty. This was the so-called cheating. Ce was completely different from those men. When Yun Jian completely became his woman, Ce would not get tired of Yun Jian. On the contrary, he could not bear to leave her. He wanted to see her all the time and not be apart from her for even a second. Students rarely went home on weekends in university because they came from all over the country. Some of them even came from out of the province to study in university. Going home once was a waste of time and money, so most students would choose to go back during the holidays. Most students would definitely go home for a major festival like the Mid-Autumn Festival. Yun Jian was no exception. It was 1 in the afternoon when Yun Jian and Ce returned to Longmen City. Today was already a holiday. Xiao Yunju's elementary school had already been closed the day before. They were lucky to be in time for the festival, so Ce brought Yun Jian back to Longmen City. After having Qin Yiru's late lunch, everyone packed their luggage and prepared to go on a trip. During the 3 days of the Mid-Autumn Festival, Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian had already agreed to go on a trip together. The destination of the tour was still the seaside. For this trip, Lan Su, Qing Yu, Gu Nianji, and Yun Yi were traveling together. Of course, Adam was tagging along as well. Because Lan Su had a child with her, Adam, as a stay-at-home dad, naturally had to follow and serve her. On the way there, Yun Zhu, Duan Li, and Duanya were in high spirits, singing the songs they learned from school during their excursion, cheerful and carefree. Mo San and Snow Eagle had already brought Luo Mei and Si Luo back to an Hun group, so it was impossible for them to be here now. At the same time, Gu Junjian drove his Jeep, Ce's Lamborghini, and Adam's sports car. It was just enough to fit everyone. The 3 cars were currently heading to Wenzhou, the nearest seaside city to Longmen City. Zhe Province. Wenzhou. Wenzhou was a coastal city located right next to the sea, so there were many seaside vacation spots. Many people who lived near the sea had also started a seaside tourism business. Gu Junjian had booked a hotel before they came. It was a hotel near the sea, and while it was not particularly luxurious, it was not too shabby either. Gu Junjian knew Si Yi's personality, so he had booked a room for Yunjian when he booked the hotel. This made Si Yi's impression of his father-in-law, Gu Junjian, improve instantly. By then, Yunjian and the rest had already brought Xiao Yunzhu, Duan Li, Duan Ye, Qing Yu, Yun Yi, and Gu Nianji to the beach. Si Yi followed Yunjian with a hand in his pocket. Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian set up a barbecue rack by the beach and set up a simple umbrella to start the barbecue. Lan Su did not go far because she had a child with her, while Adam, one of the 4 leaders of an Hun group, helped Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian move the barbecue rack and everything else out. Of course, with Lan Su and his child by his side, Adam was happy to move. At the same time, Yunjian had already pulled Duan Li and Duan Ye's hands to the temporary changing room by the beach. Qing Yu and Gu Nianji ran in as well. Si Yi and Yun Yi dragged Xiao Yunzhu to the men's room. Yunjian even put on a jacket when they came out of the changing room. She knew that Si Yi did not want to expose her in a swimsuit in front of everyone. However, even with a jacket, Yunjian's fair and slender legs were still exposed to everyone's eyes. Just as they walked out of the changing room, Yunjian felt Si Yi's burning gaze on her. When he saw her beautiful figure, Si Yi was suddenly reminded of how he had pinned her down, and a certain part of his body reacted instantly. Chapter 1983. Si Yi did not change out of his swimming trunks, nor did he take off his top. He didn't like to expose his upper body for others to see. It did not matter if Si Yi was conservative or petty. He could not bear to let others see his Xiao Jian, and he would not let other women see him as well. Everything he had belonged to his Xiao Jian. By then, other than Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian, Lan Su who was carrying a child, and Adam who was a mover, the rest of them had changed into their swimsuits. Qing Yu had changed into a swimsuit that was not very sexy but exposed the parts that should not be exposed. Qing Yu's swimsuit was conservative but exposed the parts that should be exposed. It was beautiful and breathtaking. Qing Yu's swimsuit was a girlish pink. Gu Nianji wore a green swimsuit that resembled a one-piece dress. Her top and skirt were joined together and only her navel was exposed. She was so beautiful that one could not take their eyes off her, giving one the urge to grab her and ravage her just by looking at her. Of course, Si Yi did not even look at what Qing Yu and Gu Nianji were wearing. His burning gaze was fixed on Yunjian, unwilling to look away for even a second. Yun Yi did not take off her top as well, but he had changed into a very conservative swimming trunks. Compared to 2 years ago, he was tall and handsome. Wow, Sister Jian, it's been 2 years and your figure is getting better. Quick! Let me touch you, let me touch you. When Qing Yu came out of the changing room and saw Yunjian with a jacket draped over her, she went to Yunjian with a perverted expression. Her hands were cupped like chicken feet and were about to reach out to Yunjian like pig trotters. The scariest part was that Qing Yu was saying lewd things that could be misunderstood with a cheeky grin. Si Yi, who heard Qing Yu, stared at Yunjian. His first reaction was Yunjian's alluring figure. Recalling that, Si Yi shoved Xiao Yunzhu into Yun Yi's hand before Qing Yu went over to grope Yunjian and strode forward to grab Yunjian's hand to walk to the beach. Si Yi took Yunjian away without a word, making Qing Yu and the others chuckle slyly. Qing Yu especially clapped her hands when she saw Si Yi taking Yunjian away and put her elbow on Gu Nianji's shoulder, giggling. TSK, I wasn't wrong. Sister Jen's figure looks so much better than before. Those breasts, those hips. TSK. TSK. If I were a man, I'd want to F***CK her. As Qing Yu spoke, she gestured lewdly. Just as Qing Yu spoke, she felt a light tap on the top of her head. Yun Yi's rather stern voice then rang out. You're right, master. Who do you want to F***CK? Qing Yu turned to look up and saw Yun Yi's deep eyes looking at her inquisitively. She could not help gulping. Aye. Qing Yu's eyes darted around, not knowing how to answer him. Cough. I'll bring Xiao Zhu and the rest to the beach to wash their feet. You guys have fun. Gu Nianji slapped Qing Yu's hand off her shoulder and pulled Xiao Yunzhu and the rest to run to the beach. Before Gu Nianji could run far, she heard Qing Yu's bewildered voice behind her. Gu Nianji twisted her ankle when the voice rang out, almost falling to the ground in a frog-like position from the shock. However, Qing Yu, who was standing where she was, panicked. Seeing that Gu Nianji was about to slip away again, she met Yun Yi's gaze, her eyes darting around as she pouted. In a fluster, she blurted out what she could not control or take back. I want to F***CK you. Chapter 1984. Qing Yu panicked from being stared at by Yun Yi, so her mouth opened and closed as she blurted out. Even Qing Yu herself did not realize what she had said in a moment of desperation when she blurted it out. When she finally realized what she had said, Qing Yu felt like dying. What kind of rotten mouth was that? What kind of words were those that could cause misunderstandings? Qing Yu lowered her head, not daring to look at Yun Yi. Gu Nianji, who was dragging Xiao Yunju and the rest to the beach to wash her feet, slipped and fell forward when she heard Qing Yu's words. Feeling like she was going to fall on the ground like a frog, Gu Nianji quickly let go of Xiao Yunju and the rest to prevent Xiao Yunju and the rest from tripping because of her. However, just as Gu Nianji's body fell forward, Xiao Yunju, Duan Li, and Duanya held her hands together to steady her. Cough, cough, cough. Although Gu Nianji called herself a matchmaker, she had never had a man before. Her face was as red as a monkey's, but when she heard Qing Yu's words, she coughed twice and dragged Xiao Yunju and the rest to the beach, sprinting toward the beach. She did not say anything. She did not hear anything. By then, Qing Yu had already noticed Gu Nianji's reaction. She blushed furiously when Gu Nianji heard what she had said. "You're the one who said it." Yun Yi reached out to rub Qing Yu's head gently with his large palm. A devilish smile curled up at the corner of his lips. Qing Yu suddenly had a feeling that she had been tricked by herself. I'll go play with Gu Nianji, Qing Yu said, trying to break free from Yun Yi and sneak away. "Stay with me." Before Qing Yu could escape, Yun Yi grabbed her hand. Qing Yu's ability was powerful, but she was not outstanding in terms of skills. However, Qing Yu, who was known as the Lady Poison, could poison anyone at will without being noticed. This was Qing Yu's ability. However, Yun Yi had been training her skills daily for the past 2 years. Yun Yi was very talented and Yun Yi's ability was already above Qing Yu's. Qing Yu was good at using poison. She could even poison the top international figures without them noticing. However, Qing Yu and Yun Yi had been dating for 2 years. At this moment, Yun Yi knew Qing Yu like the back of his hand. He even knew what she would do in the next second. Therefore, it would not work even if Qing Yu poisoned Yun Yi. It was because Yun Yi had countered Qing Yu's move before she even made her move. Qing Yu blinked, clearly still reeling from the awkward situation earlier. But on second thought, she didn't say anything wrong. She was his girlfriend, and there was nothing wrong with wanting to have sex with him. If Yun Yi heard this, she would probably bring Qing Yu back to the hotel in seconds. On the other hand, Ce pulled Yun Jian to the rocks by the sea. There were usually rocks near the beach that were neither too far nor too close. The rocks were distributed in an orderly manner. Usually, when one wanted to walk into the rocky area, there would be very little sand under one's feet. One's feet would step on the rocks directly. Usually, when one looked at the rocky area from the beach, one would not be able to see the opposite side of the rocks because many huge rocks would cover the rocks behind. In addition to the summer weather, the rocks were scorching under the scorching sun. One would feel like one was stepping into a fire pit when one stepped on the rocks. Although it was not the hottest noon, it was only 3 in the afternoon. The sun was much dimmer than noon, but it was still the time when the sun was high up in the sky. There was no one walking around the rocky area near the beach at this moment. Ce pulled Yun Jian to the rocky area. When he stepped on the rocks, the scorching heat of the rocks made his eyes flicker. In the next second, he was worried that Yun Jian's little feet would be scalded by the scorching rocks if she stepped on them. Ce bent down slightly and scooped Yun Jian up horizontally, ignoring the fact that he would be scalded if he stepped on the scorching rocks as he walked toward the rocky area where there was no one around. Chapter 1985. Where are you taking me? Yun Jian watched as Ce carried her in his arms and walked over the rocks towards the rocky area. She reached out a hand and hooked it around his neck like a little girl. Close your eyes. Ce's thin lips moved. At this moment, he was right next to Yun Jian's ear as he whispered this very softly. Hearing Ce's voice, Yun Jian felt a moment of numbness. Her body trembled slightly from this numbness. Then, she hugged him with both hands and closed her eyes, allowing him to carry her as they walked. To be honest, this was the first time Yun Jian had been carried in a princess carry like this. She couldn't help but feel a trace of anticipation in her heart that she didn't know where it came from. Where was he going to take her? By the beach, the barbecue rack and parasols were already in place. Qin Yiru was skewering barbecue skewers at this moment. The children wanted to come to the beach to play, So she and Gu Junjian brought the children to the beach to play. At this moment, other than Gu Junjian and Qin Yiru, Adam and Lan Su were also sitting under the parasols by the beach. Lan Su carried the child. Sometimes, the child was especially naughty. His little legs would kick around uncontrollably. The child's body was soft, so Lan Su had to constantly move around to carry the child. There was a technique to carrying a child. Some people carried a child like they were carrying a little chick. The child was also very uncomfortable being carried. The way Lan Su carried the child was taught by Qin Yiru. However, the child was especially naughty these 2 days and kept moving around. At this moment, he was nestled in Lan Su's arms and kept kicking around. Lan Su carried the child. Although the child was already more than a year old, she still felt that she wasn't used to taking care of a child. "I'll carry this little brat. You rest for a while." Adam finished moving the barbecue equipment and came over to take the mischievous Zhou Iran from Lan Su's arms. Zhou Iran was the name of Adam and Lan Su's child. He was already over a year old this year, and he was fair and chubby. Adam wanted to take the child from Lan Su's arms. Zhou Iran, this little fellow, used all his strength to hold onto the corner of Lan Su's clothes, unwilling to let his father carry him. When Adam saw that his child was grabbing the corner of Lan Su's clothes, he suddenly felt a burst of jealousy. Once he thought about how this stinking brat had actually grown up drinking his wife's milk, Adam could bear to do it. He pulled away the little fellow's hand that was grabbing onto Lan Su's clothes, and forcefully carried the crying little fellow from Lan Su's embrace. "Be careful, you'll hurt him." When Lan Su saw this, he became anxious. "He's the one who did it," Adam said with jealousy. If this little guy wasn't his son, Adam would have already flung him to the ground. "How can you treat little Iran like this? Don't carry the child anymore. Give him back to me." When Lan Su saw this, she felt a burst of heartache and reached out to take the child back from Adam. "If you don't want me to treat him like this, you have to promise me one thing." Adam lightly patted the little fellow's butt and suddenly said this. At this moment, Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian were happily standing together and talking. They skewered barbecue skewers one by one, so they didn't notice Adam and Lan Su. Taking advantage of the moment when Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian weren't paying attention, Adam suddenly stuck his head close to Lan Su's ear and whispered, "Tonight, let me drink the milk you feed the stinking brat, then I won't treat him like this." When Lan Su heard this, his face instantly turned red. Yun Jian and Ce were unaware of what was going on here. Ce had already carried Yun Jian into the rocky area. No one walked by the edge of the rocky area. Once they entered the area, even if someone were to cruise back and forth on the sea on a yacht, they would not be able to see the blind spots behind the large rocks. Ce carried Yun Jian to a few spots in the rocky area that were covered by rocks. There was no one around. He pressed Yun Jian against a large rock and bit Yun Jian's ear softly. "Xiao Jian, you can open your eyes now." Just as Yun Jian opened her eyes, she felt Ce pressing her against a rock in an embarrassing position. Her legs were lifted. Having spent 2 years with Ce in the sacred spring, how could Yun Jian not know what Ce was thinking right now? She pushed Ce. "What are you doing? Someone will come here any time." However, she felt Ce flip her over and was already busy. "I've checked. There's no one around. Don't you want it, Xiao Jian?" As he spoke, CEA. Chapter 1986. It was a sunny afternoon. In broad daylight, in the blind spot of the rock, where no one could see, Ce did something shameful to Yun Jian. When Ce did that to Yun Jian, neither of them took off their clothes. Because they were outdoors and the beach was nearby, Yun Jian didn't dare to scream. She could only hold on to Ce's clothes tightly and let Ce do whatever he wanted to her. She had to admit that Ce had become more and more daring ever since they started having sex 2 years ago. He actually dared to pull her to the beach. In the end, Ce couldn't control himself and directly sent his savings into her body. Yun Jian hurriedly pushed him away. "Don't get pregnant." It was too late. It was already over. In the past 2 years in the Holy Spring, Ce had always wanted to do shameful things to her. However, there were no safety measures in the Holy Spring, so he had always held back and backed out at the last moment. However, at this moment, the two of them couldn't control themselves anymore. If you get pregnant, give birth to it. After Ce helped Yun Jian tidy up her clothes, he hugged Yun Jian, who was blushing and didn't dare to look at him. Yun Jian had indeed enjoyed it just now. Although it was very shameful, Ce had always been the one in control. He was the one who wanted to do it. When she thought of this, Yun Jian's shame disappeared. Pushing Ce, Yun Jian said, "My legs are wobbly. I'll carry you back." With that, Ce was about to carry Yun Jian horizontally. "Don't go back now." Yun Jian pushed Ce a few times. After doing such a shameful thing in the rock field near the beach, Yun Jian didn't dare to see Qin Yiru and the others. She was afraid that they would find out that she and Ce had done something so shameful outside. "Xiao Jian, are you shy?" Ce brushed Yun Jian's hair with a smile and whispered in her ear. Ce saw that Yun Jian's earlobes blushed again when she heard what he said. His smile widened at the sight. That was right. Adam already had a child. How could he fall behind? Now that his Xiao Jian was an adult, Ce did it on purpose just now. That was the only way his Xiao Jian could get pregnant with his child. Then give birth to it. Poor Yun Jian had no idea of Ce's naughty thoughts. At the same time, Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian had started a charcoal fire in the barbecue rack and placed the skewers on it. The skewers they brought this time included lamb skewers, sausages, chicken wings, tofu, and green beans. Gu Junjian placed the skewers on the barbecue rack and smeared a layer of oil on them. There was a crackle of oil on the skewers, followed by a puff of smoke that carried the fragrant scent of barbecue. "Smells good, smells good." Zhou Yiran, who smelled the aroma, began tapping his hands and legs alternately as he uttered words that were not pronounced properly. Zhou Yiran, the little fellow, could now speak some simple words. He could also call his parents. He was more than a year old now and could chew finer foods, but his food source was still milk. When there was no milk, he would drink milk powder that was already soaked. "Let Xiao Yiran eat the skewers when they're done." "Be good, Xiao Yiran." Qin Yiru smiled at the child and told him in a coaxing tone. There was no telling if the little guy understood what she said, but he grinned suddenly, his arms and legs bouncing up and down even more energetically. When the skewers were almost done, Yun Jian and Ce came back as well. Gu Nianji had also come back with Xiao Yunzhu and the girls. She did not know where Yun Yi had brought Qing Yu, but when they returned, Qing Yu was in high spirits. Yun Jian's legs were wobbly. "Sister Jian, where did you guys go just now? We couldn't find you guys." Qing Yu skipped over to ask Yun Jian. Yun Jian blushed at the question of where she had gone. Qing Yu did not notice anything amiss. Suddenly, Qing Yu saw that Yun Jian's fair legs were red, like they were pressed down by something heavy for a while. What Qing Yu did not know was that the red marks were caused by Ce. Qing Yu did not think much about it either. She looked at Yun Jian's legs and asked, "Sister Jian, why are you looking at your legs?" "Ah, Sister Jian, why is the side of your leg so red? Did you get pricked by something when you swam in the water just now?" Chapter 1987. Yun Jian's first reaction when she heard Qing Yu was to gather her thighs and pull the short jacket closer to her thighs. It was not enough to cover her thighs, but it was better than just now. At that moment, Yun Jian's cheeks were indescribably rosy. "Ha, Sister Jian, why are you blushing?" Qing Yu had no idea what she had just discovered as she tilted her head to look at Yun Jian and asked suspiciously, "It's probably an allergy." "It's fine," Yun Jian lied through her teeth. Yun Jian was not as thick-skinned as Ce, nor was she as fluent in lying as Ce. It was worth mentioning that Ce was an expert at telling lies. "Why are you allergic? Sister Jian, do you want to go to the hospital for a checkup?" Qing Yu asked, looking at Yun Jian worriedly. If they went to the hospital, they would be found out that she and Ce had taken the forbidden fruit in secret. "No need, it's fine now." Yun Jian declined quickly. As she spoke, she pinched Ce discreetly in the dark where Qing Yu, Yun Yi, Gu Nianji, and Xiao Yunzhu could not see. Ce looked at Yun Jian with a faint smile. His Xiao Jian was getting cuter and cuter. So cute that he wanted to press his Xiao Jian under him every day. Yun Jian did not know that Ce was thinking about something so embarrassing. She merely pinched Ce lightly, reluctant to pinch him too hard. "The barbecue is done. It's going to be burnt later. Come over and eat." Qin Yiru waved at Yun Jian, Ce, and the others from afar. Seeing that, the mark on Yun Jian's leg was finally put aside for the time being. Just as Yun Jian and the others returned to the shade, Qin Yiru placed the barbecue skewers on prepared bowls and plates and passed them to Yun Jian and the others. Lan Su's child had already started eating the skewers. Of course, Lan Su dared not feed him too much. The skewers she fed him were not seasoned and were mashed into porridge before feeding him. As the father, Adam was the one who did the mashing. The child's appearance made Adam both happy and depressed. He was happy that he and Lan Su had a child of their own. Most importantly, he had a child earlier than the young masters, Lin Wei, Mo Sen, and Shui Ying. There was finally a first. His sperm was better than theirs. If Ce heard this, she would probably send Adam into space with a rocket. Qin Yiru's barbecue was really delicious. Yun Jian ate more than 20 skewers in one go and didn't think it was too much. Everyone ate with relish. Tomorrow, we'll go to the island to play. Tonight, we'll play around here for a while. Tomorrow, we'll check out of the hotel and take the ferry to Xiaofan Island. Then, we'll find a hotel there to stay. Gu Junjian explained his plan as he ate. Everyone expressed that they had no objections. Island, in modern Chinese, referred to a small piece of land surrounded by seawater. Therefore, to go to the island, one had to take the ferry. And to take the ferry, one had to go to the pier. Because there were many people traveling during the Mid-Autumn Festival, the tickets had to be bought in advance. Otherwise, one wouldn't be able to take the extra seats on the ferry. The island they were going to was called Xiaoshan Island. Xiaoshan Island was the largest island among the many nearby islands. At the same time, it was also the largest island in country Z. Whether it was the beaches or the scenery on Xiaoshan Island, it was one of the best. It was a national tourist attraction under its jurisdiction. Since they came to Wenzhou, they had never been to Xiaoshan Island. As soon as Gu Junjian arrived in Wenzhou, he had already bought the ferry tickets from the pier to Xiaoshan Island. It would depart at 7 a.m. the next day. The trip didn't end after eating the barbecue. The Mid-Autumn Festival trip would officially begin the next morning. Chapter 1988. They stayed there from 3 in the afternoon to 6 in the evening. The sun in the west was already setting, and the orange afterglow was reflected on the slowly floating clouds, leaving behind a scene that seemed like the sunset had not yet set. After admiring the afterglow of the sunset, everyone returned to their residences. They had just rushed to Wenzhou from Longmen City and had played for about 3 hours in the afternoon. They even had a barbecue, so everyone was a little tired. Just as they were about to head back, Gu Junjian received a call. Old Liang. Why are you in Wenzhou too? Sure, we're at Oasis Hotel. You guys can just head over when you're here. Oh sure. See you later then, Gu Junjian was surprised and delighted at the person on the other end of the phone before hanging up. Since the call was not on speaker, only Gu Junjian's surprised and delighted voice could be heard. It was only when Gu Junjian ended the call that Qin Yiru glanced at Gu Junjian and asked, "Who was it?" Gu Junjian and Qin Yiru were becoming more and more like an old married couple. Even the way they spoke sounded like an old married couple. After Gu Junjian ended the call, he explained to Qin Yiru with a smile. It was old Liang. His company gave him a break for the Mid-Autumn Festival too. He heard that we're traveling with our kids, so he came along too. He said he'd go to Xiaoshan Island with us. It's a rare opportunity after all. After Gu Junjian explained, Qin Yiru hummed in response and nodded. Old Liang was Gu Junjian's childhood friend and had known Gu Junjian since they were young. Although they had different careers later on, they had always kept in touch. Old Liang was the director of a high-tech company and held a high position now. He had been particularly busy in recent years and could not even spare time for holidays, let alone meeting Gu Junjian. Gu Junjian was surprised and delighted that old Liang had a break for the Mid-Autumn Festival this year. Obviously, Qin Yiru also knew who Lao Liang was. At the same time, Yun Jian and Ce helped to pack up all the barbecue equipment. After moving the barbecue grill and other things into the car, the group drove back to the Oasis Hotel. Gu Junjian was very excited because his childhood friend, old Liang, had already brought his family to the Oasis Hotel. How long had it been since he last saw old Liang? After they each had their own families, they hadn't seen each other for several years. Upon returning to the Oasis Hotel, Yun Jian saw a middle-aged man about the same age as Gu Junjian standing in front of the hotel. Next to the middle-aged man stood a graceful and elegant lady. The lady was holding the hand of a young girl who was about the same age as Yun Jian. Before Yun Jian and Gu Junjian could walk over, the young girl who was about the same age as Yun Jian looked around with disdain. She waved her hand to get rid of the summer heat around her ears and said to the middle-aged man, "Brother Yi, you're too young." "Dad, why do we have to come to such a god-forsaken place for a vacation? It's so hot. You can just find your friends and come by yourself. Why do you have to make me and my mother come too?" "Humph, I don't care. I've already asked you to accompany me. He'll be here soon." "You, Sai, I say, you're so worrisome even after growing up. I've already said that Jin Yu isn't suitable to be your boyfriend, much less your future husband. Why don't you listen to me?" When the middle-aged man heard his daughter's words, he was furious and clenched his fists. "What are you doing? Are you trying to hit our daughter? I think Jin Yu is an upright person. He's not bad. The most important thing is that our daughter likes him. Our daughter is fair, rich, and beautiful. She can have any man she wants." When the lady saw that her husband wanted to hit her daughter, she hurriedly stood in front of her daughter and glared at the middle-aged man. "Old Liang." At this moment, Gu Junjian had already brought Yun Jian and the others over to where the middle-aged man was. The middle-aged man was still holding his forehead. He had a headache over the daughter he had spoiled and his wife who was so protective of her. However, when he heard Gu Yunjian's voice, the middle-aged man turned around. "Old Gu." The middle-aged man no longer hesitated. He walked over in front of everyone and hugged Gu Junjian, whom he hadn't seen in a long time. Chapter 1989. Lao Liang was the middle-aged man from earlier. The lady standing beside Lao Liang was Lao Liang's wife, Yu Yuan. Yu Yuan was born into a wealthy family. She was a match for old Liang, who was already well off to begin with. Actually, that was not the case. Lao Liang's family background was the same as Gu Yunjian's, who was born into a wealthy family. Both Lao Liang and Gu Junjian were born into wealthy families, so they could not decide on their marriage. However, Gu Yunjian's ex-wife ran away with another man, so the marriage was annulled. Lao Liang was a senior executive in his company, and his wife, Yu Yuan, was also forced on him by his parents. Yu Yuan was an unreasonable and troublemaker to begin with, so old Liang didn't like her. Lao Liang and Yu Yuan even had a daughter named Liang Xiaomin. Liang Xiaomin was the daughter who did not listen to Lao Liang. Her father did not agree, but Liang Xiaomin insisted on having a boyfriend. This time, Liang Xiaomin was forced to come to Wenzhou by Lao Liang. Liang Xiaomin reluctantly called her boyfriend over. And he was almost here. Lao Liang knew that Gu Junjian was coming out to have fun, so he came over because his company was on holiday. Now that he saw his old friend, Gu Junjian, whom he had not seen for a long time, Lao Liang forgot about his daughter and walked over to hug Gu Junjian. Because of many things, Lao Liang could not leave Gu Yunjian's second wedding, so Lao Liang felt a little apologetic. Now that he saw Qin Yiru, Lao Liang even said apologetically to her, "Sister-in-law, I did not make it to your wedding. Please forgive me." Lao Liang did not come, but he did not forget the gifts. Qin Yiru naturally remembered who was good and who was bad. Therefore, Qin Yiru also said a few words of courtesy. Other than Yu Yuan and Liang Xiaomin, who did not talk to Qin Yiru or Gu Junjian, Lao Liang was very friendly. In the end, it was old Liang who forcefully introduced his daughter, Liang Xiaomin, to Yun Jian. However, at that time, Liang Xiaomin was at odds with her father and did not want to talk to anyone. It wasn't until Liang Xiaomin's boyfriend, Jin Yu, arrived that Liang Xiaomin finally opened her mouth and her bad mood improved a little. Liang Xiaomin's boyfriend, Jin Yu, was dressed like a gangster. In this era, tattered pants were not popular, and boys or girls wearing tattered pants would give people the impression that they were hooligans. At this moment, Jin Yu was wearing a pair of ripped trousers, walking over from a distance with an air of arrogance. There were a few young men and women beside Jin Yu. They were dressed similarly to Jin Yu, and it was obvious that they were gangsters. When Liang Xiaomin saw Jin Yu, she was still smiling. But when she saw the boys and girls beside Jin Yu, her face sank. "My dad was unhappy when he knew you were coming. Why did you bring others here?" Jin Yu's looks weren't bad, but he was a proper gigolo. "Didn't everyone want to come and have some fun? So I brought them here." We've already spent all our money on the tickets. Xiaomin, we'll have to rely on you for the rest of the money. Jin Yu tricked Liang Xiaomin in the dark. As he spoke, Jin Yu moved closer to Liang Xiaomin and added suggestively, I love you, so I came even though I don't have any money with me. All right, don't be mad anymore. Yun Jian heard Jin Yu and Liang Xiaomin's secret conversation. It was obvious that Jin Yu was lying to Liang Xiaomin. After all, the Liang family was rich and affluent. What did that have to do with Yun Jian? As Liang Xiaomin and Jin Yu spoke, Yun Jian had already returned to the hotel with Ce, Qing Yu, and the others. It was 8 in the evening when Qing Yu came to ask Yun Jian out. Sister Jian, there's a casino on the second floor of this hotel. Do you want to go play a few rounds? Ce and Yun Yi were both called over by Gu Junjian to play chess with him and old Liang. Ce naturally agreed to his future father-in-law's invitation. Oasis Hotel was an AAA-rated National Green Hotel. The facilities in the hotel were luxurious, with hot springs, massage parlors, and more. There was even a chess room. Once Yun Jian recalled what Ce had done to her in the afternoon, she nodded and agreed to Qing Yu's request. With the mysterious man still alive, her safety was at risk at all times. It was best if she did not get pregnant now. It was not that Yun Jian did not want to bear Ce a child. Therefore, while Ce was not around, Yun Jian planned to go to the pharmacy downstairs to buy an emergency morning after pill. Of course, Yun Jian dared not let Ce know that she was going to buy the pill. Yun Jian's period had been irregular for the past 2 months. She was afraid that if she really got pregnant, she would not be able to fight the mysterious man and would be a burden to Ce. Yun Jian did not think about the consequences if Ce found out about her buying the morning after pill. Chapter 1990. Sure. Yun Jian agreed to Qing Yu's invitation. She could buy the morning after pill from the pharmacy downstairs when they went to the casino later and consume it secretly. Who would not know that? Qing Yu had actually come over to ask Yun Yi to gamble with Yun Jian at the casino when she was not around. Yun Jian was known as the female gambling god by the group of old men with the best gambling skills in the international gambling industry. Yun Jian had even gambled away a month's worth of profits at the internationally renowned Feng Yun Casino for a night. 1 billion USD. Her gambling skills were astounding. That was why Qing Yu had come over to ask Yun Jian out, planning to have Yun Jian bring her, a poor person with mediocre gambling skills, to win big. Both of them had just left the room and went down to the second floor of the hotel when they bumped into Liang Xiaomin, Jin Yu, and the rest. Liang Xiaomin pouted and followed Jin Yu and the rest to the casino unwillingly. Don't worry, what's so scary about the casino? I'll protect you. Moreover, we're not betting much so the chances of winning are high. Even if we lose, it won't cost much. Xiaomin, your family is so rich, you wouldn't care about such a small amount of money, would you? Jin Yu was still baiting Liang Xiaomin when she caught sight of Yun Jian and Qing Yu just as she said that. Jin Yu stopped what she was about to say immediately. From what Jin Yu had said to Liang Xiaomin when she first appeared and what happened afterward, it could be seen that Jin Yu was a gigolo. Liang Xiaomin's father, old Liang, was the general manager of a high-tech company and was very wealthy. Jin Yu had her eyes on Liang Xiaomin's family's wealth since the beginning. Liang Xiaomin was not particularly pretty but she was still acceptable. For the sake of money, Jin Yu got close to Liang Xiaomin, who appeared to be high and mighty but was actually quite gullible and gullible. It was a coincidence that they bumped into Yun Jian at the entrance of the hotel casino, and it shut Jin Yu's mouth to bluff Liang Xiaomin. Jin Yu had already seen Yun Jian at the gate. It had to be said that Yun Jian's appearance was too attractive. Jin Yu was attracted at a glance. Seeing that Yun Jian was going to the casino, Jin Yu put down her sugar daddy, Liang Xiaomin, and hurriedly waved at Yun Jian. Hey, we met at the entrance just now. You're the daughter of Xiaomin's father's friend, right? Why did a girl like you come to the casino? Don't tell me you know how to gamble? As she spoke, Jin Yu flipped her short black hair. This was Jin Yu's way of flirting with girls. There were very few girls who weren't attracted to Jin Yu. To be honest, Jin Yu's looks were indeed not bad. She was fair and clean, and her bones revealed a youthful aura. He was the type that many young girls liked and pursued. However, Yun Jian was not interested in this type of thing at all. Yun Jian ignored her and went to the casino with Qing Yu. Hey, why is she ignoring us? Liang Xiaomin wanted to call out to Yun Jian when she saw this. Forget it, forget it. She should be the more aloof type, Jin Yu said as she stopped Liang Xiaomin while watching Yun Jian walk into the casino. A few of Jin Yu's friends stood beside her. They were all gangsters like Jin Yu. Among them, a girl named Tong Liwei thought of a tall and handsome figure when she saw how Yun Jian ignored Jin Yu and walked into the casino. Tong Liwei was envious when she saw how Ce held Yun Jian's hand at the entrance earlier. She wanted to have such a handsome and outstanding boyfriend as well. Therefore, she had the urge to snatch Ce away from Yun Jian. Tong Liwei had always been someone who would act on her thoughts. Now that she saw Yun Jian walk into the casino, she could not help grumbling in front of everyone. This girl is probably from the triads. She must be someone who doesn't know how to behave if she can enter a place like this. The handsome man did not follow her, which meant that Yun Jian had snuck in. Thinking of this, Tong Liwei had the urge to catch Yun Jian's misdeeds and let Ce see Yun Jian's true colors. Ce would probably look down on Yun Jian this way. When Ce was traumatized by the breakup, she would go and comfort him. After all, young men and women would be hurt for a long time after breaking up. Then, would it not be a matter of time before she took office? Tong Liwei smirked, feeling pleased with herself for having such a thought. Chapter 1991. Yun Jian did not know nor was she interested in what Tong Liwei, Jin Yu, and the rest were thinking. By then, Yun Jian had already entered the casino on the second floor of Oasis Hotel. The casino on the second floor of Oasis Hotel was not big but it was not small either. Yun Jian caught a whiff of the thick scent of cigarette smoke as soon as she walked in. There was a foul stench mixed in as well. There were no guards at the entrance of the casino, so Yun Jian and Qing Yu walked in easily. Yun Jian was beautiful with a hint of playfulness amidst her exquisite features. Yun Jian was already 18 years old at the time and had blossomed into a slender and elegant woman. Her voluptuous figure and perfect but gave men a sense of conquest just by looking at her from afar. Yun Jian still had her hair tied up in a high ponytail. Looking from afar, she gave off the illusion that she was spirited and so beautiful that one could not take their eyes off her. Therefore, when Yun Jian walked into the casino, a few middle-aged men or bald men who were counting cards with their legs crossed or shaking wretchedly sat up straight and straightened their backs when they saw Yun Jian. Where did this woman come from? She's so pretty. She looks just like a movie star. Her skin is so soft and tender. However, the men around them only took a few more glances at Yun Jian and did not have any other thoughts. Liang Xiaomin, Jin Yu, Tong Liwei, and the rest followed closely from the main entrance. Liang Xiaomin and the rest who came in later saw Yun Jian and Qing Yu walking toward the manager of the casino. What's she doing? Does she know the manager here? Tong Liwei, who wanted to target Yun Jian and find her flaw so that Ce could see the true colors of a person like Yun Jian, blinked. Tong Liwei thought to herself, this woman is a B***starred indeed. How could she deserve the love of such a handsome man? Such a handsome man should belong to me. Tong Liwei. Tong Liwei thought there was something wrong with Yun Jian when she saw Yun Jian walking toward the manager of the casino. Tong Liwei even wondered if Yun Jian was the secret mistress of the casino's manager. Everyone could see that the manager of the casino was a fatty who was not even 1.68 meters tall but weighed about 200 caddies. The fat on his body could be rolled into a lump. Just looking at him was enough to make one lose their appetite. Once she thought that Yun Jian could be the mistress of such a person, Tong Liwei was so excited that she wanted to get Ce here right away and let Ce see Yun Jian's true colors. Hey, what are you doing? When Jin Yu saw Yun Jian walking toward the manager of the casino, he dashed forward to block her way. Glancing around, Jin Yu told Yun Jian softly, "Don't worry. What's a little girl like you doing here?" This kind of place was usually under the protection of big shots from the underworld. They were people from the underworld. Can you afford to offend them? Leave quickly. Don't hurt yourself. Jin Yu sounded like he was thinking for Yun Jian, but he was actually thinking for Yun Jian. In spite of it, Jin Yu was not thinking for Yun Jian for no reason. He had a purpose in mind. He had a motive, to win Yun Jian's affection for him. It was also Jin Yu's flirting tactics that won him the affection of many girls. Everyone thought that Jin Yu was a good man. However, Jin Yu was flirting with the wrong person today. The person he was flirting with was Yun Jian. Move. Yun Jian did not even look at Jin Yu. I'm doing this for your own good. Yun Jian walked around Jin Yu and continued to walk toward the manager of the casino. With Jin Yu blocking him, Jin Yu could not get to Yun Jian. What does she mean? Aren't we doing this for her own good? Although Liang Xiaomin ignored Yun Jian in the beginning and acted like a spoiled brat, she was still a nice person when it came to critical moments, even though her tone was easily misunderstood. Liang Xiaomin really wanted to turn around and call her father or Gu Junjian to stop Yun Jian, afraid that Yun Jian would do something irreversible. Tong Liwei, who was beside her, brainwashed Liang Xiaomin about Yun Jian. I think she must know the manager of this casino. She might even be the woman lying under his crotch. Just as Tong Liwei spoke, the crowd saw Yun Jian standing in front of the manager of the casino. Her frigid gaze flickered as her arrogant, haughty voice rang coldly and echoed throughout the place. You're the manager here? If you don't want to lose your casino in the next 10 minutes, get your best gambler to come out and bet with me. A. Chapter 1992. When Yun Jian said this, her tone was flat, so flat that no one present could tell whether she was happy or sad. But the flat words that came out of Yun Jian's mouth sounded extremely arrogant in the ears of everyone present. Yun Jian had a kind of innate magical power. She used a tone that was so flat that no one could tell whether she was happy or sad, but she could say such arrogant words. At least when she said this, everyone was stunned for a moment. Where did this girl come from? She was so arrogant. As soon as she said this, even the person in charge of the casino, a man in his 30s or 40s who was less than 1.68 meters tall and weighed at least 200 kilograms, looked at Yun Jian. Many gamblers in the casino also stopped their bets and turned to look at Yun Jian. Little girl, you want to bet with the most powerful person in our casino? The person in charge of the casino, a man who weighed around 200 kilograms and was known as Brother Iron Bull, glanced at Yun Jian. Judging from his tone, the aura that he displayed was not at all inferior to Yun Jian's. Some people had a strong aura, but when faced with a truly powerful person, that strong aura would immediately be defeated. For example, this person in charge of the casino who was known as Brother Iron Bull. You're crazy. I've already told you that those who open casinos must have someone backing them. Be careful not to get entangled with them. You won't be able to escape. I'm doing this for your own good. When Jin Yu heard this, he walked closer to Yun Jian and winked at Yun Jian in the softest voice possible. It had to be said that Jin Yu was taking a risk this time to make Yun Jian have a good impression of him. When a normal girl saw a guy who was considered handsome showing so much concern for her, even if this guy had a girlfriend, he would still come up to flirt with Jin Yu. But Yun Jian? She actually ignored him time and time again. The more Yun Jian ignored him, the more Jin Yu wanted to get closer to Yun Jian. Therefore, even though she knew that she couldn't speak carelessly in the casino, not to mention that Yun Jian had already attracted the attention of the person in charge of the casino, Jin Yu still took the risk to stand up and dissuade Yun Jian in order to gain a good impression. Yes. Yun Jian looked at the person in charge of the casino, who was Brother Tai Nyo. She answered softly in front of everyone and still ignored Jin Yu. Haha. It's been a long time since I've met such an interesting girl like you. He even said that if our casino's best player didn't come out to bet with you, you could win our casino in 10 minutes. How arrogant. Come, Iron Bull, will bet with you. Brother Tai Nyo struggled to get up from his seat and waved at Yun Jian. Everyone knew that the Oasis Hotel's casino was backed by a powerful gang in Jia Province. And this powerful gang had a certain cooperative relationship with Jia Province's #1 gang, Falcon Hall. Falcon Hall had a very high status in Jia Province. That was Jia Province's #1 gang. Falcon Hall's boss, Slaying Luo, was a powerful and ruthless character. Although Slaying Luo hadn't fought for 2 years, her achievements in the past still made people's blood boil when they heard about it. Brother Tai Nyo, who was the person in charge of the casino, was also the best gambler in the entire casino. It was said that he had never met a match in the Oasis Hotel's casino. This girl who appeared out of nowhere dared to bet with Brother Tai Nyo? Was she prepared to lose? Jin Yu saw that Brother Tai Nyo had already spoken, so he didn't dare to dissuade her anymore. What if he went overboard and got himself into trouble? He was so young and had a bright future ahead of him. He couldn't lose his future just because of a girl who didn't listen to his advice. Jin Yu was afraid of getting himself into trouble, so when he saw that Yun Jian didn't listen to his advice, he quickly found a reason to get Liang Xiaomin, Tong Liwei, and the rest to leave the casino with him. Tong Liwei felt relieved when she saw that Yun Jian was courting death. After all, if one lost a bet and couldn't afford to pay for it, some people even had to use themselves to pay for it. Yun Jian was pretty. If those men won the bet, then wouldn't Yun Jian be? In order to see Yun Jian lose the bet and become the plaything of those men, Tong Liwei urged Jin Yu, Liang Xiumin, and the rest to return to the casino with her half an hour later. However, what they saw wasn't Yun Jian being pawned because she lost the bet, but, big sister, great aunt, my grandmother, my dear grandmother, I beg you to go gamble in another casino. If you continue to gamble, our casino staff will have nothing to eat. I beg you. Please have mercy. Brother Tai Nyo, who had been full of vigor earlier, was now kneeling and begging Yun Jian for mercy. He looked like he was about to kowtow to Buddha. Tong Liwei, Jin Yu, and the rest were stunned when they saw this. What was going on? Chapter 1993. Why did Brother Tai Nyo, who was in high spirits earlier and thought that winning Yun Jian was just a matter of time, have a bitter expression now? He was just short of kowtowing to Yun Jian and begging for forgiveness? What's going on? Why is the casino's manager kneeling to her? Tong Liwei wanted to see Yun Jian court death and beg for forgiveness from the casino's people, so she ran back to watch the show. But what she saw was not Yun Jian begging for forgiveness from the casino's people, but the casino's manager personally begging Yun Jian to be merciful. What exactly happened just now? Tong Liwei was so scared that she almost had a heart attack. She even stuttered when she spoke. Jin Yu, who had been persuading Yun Jian not to provoke the casino, was also scared out of her wits when she saw this scene. She was almost as scared as Tong Liwei. Liang Xiumin, who had always been pampered and spoiled, heaved a sigh of relief for Yun Jian when she saw this scene. Although Liang Xiumin was too lazy to care about Yun Jian after she quarreled with her father, and her tone was as arrogant as a peacock spreading its tail, Liang Xiumin was still kind. After all, Yun Jian was the daughter of her father's friend. If something really happened to her, Liang Xiumin would also panic. Just as everyone's thoughts were turning and everyone was panicking, Yun Jian, who was sitting at the gambling table and being treated like a god by Brother Tai Nyo and the casino's people, played with a die on the table and drew a red arc again. She still wanted to gamble? She still wanted to gamble? My dear aunt. Big sister. This is just a small casino. You can go to a big casino to gamble. I beg you. We're really going to have nothing to eat. My dear aunt. Please be magnanimous and let us go. If you continue to gamble, we'll really go bankrupt. Brother Tai Nyo stood in front of Yun Jian and knelt down and kowtowed. The surrounding regulars, the group of gamblers, had never seen Brother Tai Nyo like this. They were all stunned on the spot. Some of the gamblers were so shocked that they put down the bets in their hands and looked over in this direction. Only a portion of the gamblers saw how Yun Jian and Brother Tai Nyo bet. Most of the people were playing their own games. On the other side, most of the gamblers who saw Yun Jian and Brother Tai Nyo's bet were so scared that their faces turned pale. All right, Sister Jian, I think it's about time to collect the money, Qingyu said with a cheeky grin as she rubbed her hands together. Qingyu was not poor, but money was never too little. When Yun Jian was gambling with Brother Tai Nyo, she was just toying with Brother Tai Nyo. According to Yun Jian's normal standards, she could take away all of the casino's assets in less than 10 minutes. Yes. After listening to Qingyu, Yun Jian felt that it was about time. She still had to go downstairs to buy medicine, so she decided to stop. Here, transfer the money you guys lost to Sister Jian to this card. Qingyu pulled out a card from her pocket and tossed it on the table, just like how Yun Jian won a month's worth of profits in Feng Yun Casino after a night of gambling in her past life. When Yun Jian gambled in Feng Yun Casino back then, Qingyu had followed her to collect the money without any hesitation. Seeing Qingyu toss out the card, everyone was stunned again. Jin Yu, Tong Liwei, and the others who stood a distance away were stunned, but they could not help thinking. There was a backer behind this casino. It was true that Yun Jian won the money, but could she take it away? She had no power or influence. Was she going to fight them head-on? After all, Brother Tai Nyo and his gang were mostly triads. Even if Yun Jian won the money, she might not be able to take it away. Just as Jin Yu, Tong Liwei, and the rest were thinking about it, An employee in the casino pointed at the card with a unique skull symbol that Qing Yu tossed out and cried out in shock. "What the hell is this?" This card. Qing Yu's card was marked with the Kosha mercenaries' exclusive symbol in the shape of a skull. Outsiders could not get their hands on such a card. Only the Kosha mercenaries' elders had it. Next to the skull imprint on each of the elders' bank cards, there were their respective nicknames. On Qing Yu's piece of paper, there was a simple word, Qing, written beside the skull. Seeing this card, the man who recognized it pointed at the card in front of everyone and exclaimed, "That's right, Mr. Zhang! Isn't this the exclusive card of the Kosha mercenaries' elder Qing Yu? There's only one of it in the world. Why is it with you?" Also, I once heard that in the world's largest casino, Wind Cloud Casino, the woman known as the strongest female gambling god, who won a month's income of $1 billion in one night, used this card to swipe the money from Wind Cloud Casino. As the person spoke, he turned his gaping mouth to Yun Jian and exclaimed to Yun Jian in front of Brother Iron Bull, Tong Liwei, Jin Yu and everyone else, "You're the one who's going to die. Could you be the lady gambler who won a month's worth of profits in the biggest Feng Yun casino in the world?" Chapter 1994. In her past life, Yun Jian was the one who gambled crazily that night in Feng Yun Casino while Qing Yu was the one who collected the money. Therefore, in conclusion, it was Qing Yu who collected the money in Feng Yun Casino using her personal bank card. How did this man know so much? "My big brother works at Feng Yun Casino. It's all because of him that I can work here." The woman who was called the female gambling god by the international bosses back then had a woman by her side. That woman was probably her subordinate who collected the money for her. That night, she won $1 billion in Feng Yun Casino in one go. The gambling method was ever-changing, and the tactics used in every round were different. She could be called the top gambler in the casino. My big brother saw it with his own eyes. He told me that he went from being unconvinced in the beginning to being completely convinced and even idolizing the woman. The woman who collected the money for her next to her threw out a bank card with a skull mark exclusive to the Kosha mercenaries. There was a Qing beside the skull mark, which meant that this woman's subordinate was from the Kosha mercenaries. Seeing that the crowd was confused, the man stared at Yun Jian with his round eyes and shouted in disbelief in front of the crowd. The man was obviously an employee of the casino who worked under Brother Tai Niu. Those who stood around, including Jin Yu and Liang Xiumin, turned to look at Yun Jian in disbelief after hearing what the man said. An elder of the Kosha mercenaries. If Yun Jian's subordinate, Qing Yu, was an elder of the Kosha mercenaries, then who was Yun Jian? The elders of the Kosha mercenaries took orders from the boss of the Kosha mercenaries. What did it mean that an elder like Qing Yu was following behind Yun Jian? Could she be Yun Jian? She was the one who won a month's worth of profits in Feng Yun Casino in one night. $1 billion. Rumor has it that she might be the boss of the Kosha mercenaries, the woman known as the female gambling god. Oh my god! How's that possible? She's just a young girl. Someone exclaimed in disbelief while hugging his head. Feng Yun Casino was the largest casino in the world. Back then, the mysterious woman brought her subordinates to the casino and gambled for a whole night. The news of her winning $1 billion from Feng Yun Casino was spread all over the world, shocking and horrifying countless international bosses and bigwigs. That woman's actions were simply terrifying and frightening. In addition, the woman's subordinate threw out a bank card that belonged to an elder of the Kosha mercenaries. It was concluded that the mysterious woman was the boss of the Kosha mercenaries. At that time, this incident caused a storm around the world. After all, everyone present often hung out in the casino, so they had long heard of this matter. Now that this matter was brought up again after so many years, everyone present still felt their hearts tighten fiercely. The gamblers in the casino, including the staff, retreated as if they had seen something terrifying, trying to find a place to hide. Tong Liwei and the rest were confused. What was the gambling goddess from Feng Yun Casino? Where was Feng Yun Casino? What was the Kosha mercenaries? Jin Yu had heard of them, but Tong Liwei had no idea. Tong Liwei didn't know what this meant, so she asked very naturally, "What do you mean? What about Feng Yun Casino and Kosha mercenaries? Why are you so afraid of her after hearing that she's the boss of the Kosha mercenaries?" Tong Liwei pointed at Yun Jian as she spoke. Just as Tong Liwei was puzzled, a man from afar looked at Yun Jian in horror. If she's the boss of the Kosha mercenaries, then she's slaying God. You don't even know about the Kosha mercenaries. Kosha mercenaries is the world's #1 mercenary group. They're on par with the #1 assassin organization, and Hun. And slaying God is ranked #1 on the secret agent ranking, the strongest secret agent in history. Being targeted by her is akin to stepping into a coffin. No one can survive slaying God's saber. A. Chapter 1995. As soon as the man finished speaking, Tong Liwei's eyes widened from a moment ago to shock and fear. What? Slaying God was the top secret agent on the international secret agent ranking. No one could survive slaying God's blade. Slaying God Yun Jian? Yun Jian was only the daughter of Liang Xiaomin's father's friend. How could she be the top secret agent on the international secret agent ranking? Jin Yu's eyes widened at the same time until they could no longer widen. Liang Xiaomin, as well as Liang Xiaomin and her companions, were equally shocked. This result caused everyone present to be in disbelief. However, Tong Liwei, Jin Yu, Liang Xiaomin, and the rest had no choice but to believe it based on the reactions of all the gamblers in the casino staff, and the general manager, Brother Iron Bull. After deducing that Yun Jian was the female gambling god from Feng Yun Casino years ago and was most likely the boss of the Kosha mercenaries, all the gamblers put down their bets. This included the casino staff who abandoned their posts and the general manager, Brother Iron Bull, who weighed at least 200 caddies. This group of people, in front of Jin Yu, Tong Liwei, Liang Xiaomin, and the others, did something that made them turn pale with fright. The group of gamblers was so frightened by the possibility that Yun Jian was the boss of the Kosha mercenaries that they hid behind the tables and decorations. Some of them even hid in the corner of the table and trembled, causing the table to shake along with the tremors. Everyone present was a gambler. Gamblers were adults with their own mature and independent thoughts. What did it mean for them to hide in the corner of the table in fear? The boss of the Kosha mercenaries, the top secret agent on the international secret agent ranking, slaying God, had struck fear into their hearts. They were even willing to abandon their dignity. Tong Liwei, Jin Yu, and the rest were completely dumbfounded. Just as everyone thought so, Yun Jian, who had been silent since the beginning, picked up Qing Yu's bank card from the table. Then, Yun Jian's lips curled into a faint smile that frightened everyone present. Then, she reached for the bank card in front of everyone and tore off the skull mark and the word, Qing, that was Qing Yu's exclusive name beside it. The skull mark and the word, Qing, that was exclusive to Qing Yu were pasted on with a unique sticker. How many times have I told you? Posting things like this can easily scare someone to death. Yun Jian said flatly. With a flick of her finger, the sticker fell to the ground and she passed the bank card to Qing Yu. Qing Yu pouted and took the bank card from Yun Jian. I just thought it was fun. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief when they saw this. So it turned out that everyone's fear was just a false alarm? In fact, that was not the case. It was true that the Kosha mercenaries' bank cards had the exclusive mark of the Kosha mercenaries. However, outsiders did not know that the mark on the bank card could be torn off like a sticker using a certain method. It could be pasted back next time. The sticker was unique and could not be imitated by outsiders. What? False alarm. What nonsense. I was wondering. How could this young lady be slaying God? It was only then that everyone in the room came out from the corners of the table, wiping away their cold sweat with a wave of their hands. They had to admit that the crowd was terrified when slaying God's name spread. Tong Liwei recovered from her shock as well. Knowing that Yun Jian was not slaying God, Tong Liwei looked at Yun Jian in disdain. Why are you acting all high and mighty? How shameless. You even snatched such a handsome boyfriend. You're not worthy of that handsome man. She, Tong Liwei, would snatch her boyfriend away. Chapter 1996. Tong Liwei actually did not know what slaying God and Kosha mercenaries represented. She was a student, about the same age as Yun Jian. Jin Yu was in the underworld and Tong Liwei knew him, so she tagged along to have fun. Liang Xiaomin had to pay for all the expenses of Jin Yu's friends, including Tong Liwei. Liang Xiaomin was dumb enough to pay the bill obediently after being tricked by Jin Yu. As for a girl like Tong Liwei, all she knew about assassins and secret agents came from Jin Yu and other men in the underworld. To put it bluntly, Guys like Jean you would often pretend to be knowledgeable and boast in front of girls like Tong Liwei. This also caused Tong Liwei's understanding of assassins and secret agents to be limited. After all, the internet was not widely available in this era. Other than schools, newspapers, magazines, people's sources of knowledge were just hearsay. It was obvious that Tong Liwei did not know the horrors of assassins and secret agents, so she was shocked but not too shocked. She was an ignorant person after all. Once she was sure that Yun Jian was not slaying God or the boss of kosher mercenaries, Tong Liwei began to plan her own scheme again. After what happened just now, Brother Tai Nyo dared not withhold the money he had lost to Yun Jian. Taking the bank card from Qing Yu with trembling hands, Brother Tai Nyo ordered someone to transfer the money he had lost to Yun Jian into Qing Yu's card. 10 minutes later, the lackey he had sent to transfer the money to Qing Yu's card came running back to return the card to her. Haha, thanks. Qing Yu took the card and made a circle with her thumb and index finger, flicking the card softly. There was meat to be gained by following Sister Jian, that was true. Seeing that Yun Jian and Qing Yu were leaving, Brother Tai Nyo hurried over to wave at Yun Jian. Are you leaving? Please, please. Please, please. He looked like he was afraid that Yun Jian would not leave again. Yun Jian was about to leave, but after hearing Brother Tai Nyo's words, she narrowed her eyes and turned around again. Brother Iron Bull shook his fat body violently. He was so scared that he couldn't turn around quickly. Oh my God! Could it be that she didn't want to leave? Just when Brother Tai Nyo was about to speak, Yun Jian's voice suddenly rang out, scaring Brother Tai Nyo so much that he almost jumped up. What's your name? Ask for his name? Brother Tinyu secretly wiped away his cold sweat. He looked at Yun Jian and answered honestly, My name is Lin Tinyu. Lin Tinyu was originally an honest country bumpkin. Later on, he relied on his own strength to climb to his current position. He could be considered quite impressive. However, no one could figure out why Yun Jian was asking for Brother Tai Nyo's name. Could it be that she has taken a fancy to that Brother Tai Nyo? Do you want to ride on my coattails? Tong Liwei thought in her heart and said it out softly. At that moment, Tong Liwei was standing beside Liang Xiaomin. She seemed to be talking to herself, but also seemed to be talking to Liang Xiaomin. What are you talking about? Liang Xiaomin wasn't particularly close to Tong Liwei. After hearing Tong Liwei's words, Liang Xiaomin frowned and asked. No, nothing. Tong Liwei realized that she had said what was on her mind. She quickly shook her head and waved her hands. On the other side, Yun Jian's lips had already curved into a red arc. She glanced at Brother Tai Nyo in front of everyone and said, Wenzhou City's Qinglong Gang? After hearing Yun Jian's words, one of Brother Tai Nyo's subordinates looked at Yun Jian in shock and exclaimed, How did you know that our casino belongs to the Qinglong Gang? The casino's backer was the Qinglong Gang of Wenzhou City. I know all the gangs in Zhe province. Yun Jian's lips curved into a red arc as she pursed her red lips. Because she was the boss of the #1 gang in Zhe province. The current Falcon Hall was equivalent to the leader of all the gangs in Zhe province. Seeing this from afar, Tong Liwei rolled her eyes and thought to herself, trying to be mysterious again. On the other hand, Jin Yu thought that Yun Jian was pretending to know when she didn't. Brother Tai Nyo blinked. Just as he was about to speak, Yun Jian's words rang out in front of everyone. I'll recommend the Qinglong Gang's boss to put you in an important position. After all, there aren't many people with guts like you. After Yun Jian finished her words, she waved at Qing Yu and the two of them walked out. Tong Liwei, Jin Yu, and the rest were still pondering over the meaning of Yun Jian's words when Brother Tai Nyo's eyes widened suddenly. Other than the former boss of Falcon Hall, Su Zetian, there was only one other woman who could recommend someone to the Qinglong Gang's boss. And that woman was none other than Falcon Hall's boss. Looking in the direction that Yun Jian left, Brother Tai Nyo exclaimed in shock. She is. Chapter 1997. Brother Tai Nyo exclaimed again. Tong Liwei, Jin Yu, and the others' hearts that had just calmed down were lifted again. Who is she? Who is she? Just because of Yun Jian's nonsensical words just now, she had to prove who she was again? But at this moment, before elder brother Tai Nyo could say anything, he reached out his hand and covered his mouth before he could cry out in surprise. Who is she? He could not say it. Brother Iron Bull was courageous and insightful, so he naturally understood this. Brother Tai Nyo had already guessed Yun Jian's identity, but he was not going to say it now. Brother Tai Nyo, who is she? One of Brother Tai Nyo's men beside him asked. Brother Tai Nyo removed his hand from his mouth quickly and waved calmly. It's nothing. Go back to your work. She was Falcon Hall's boss. Only Falcon Hall's boss was a woman and qualified to recommend someone to Qing Long Sec's boss. Oh God, he had just bumped into the boss of Zhe Province's top mafia group, Falcon Hall. One had to know how powerful Falcon Hall was now. It was only a matter of time before they became the top mafia group in Country Z. Moreover, Luo Sha had not led Falcon Hall on an operation for 2 years, and he had actually bumped into her this time. Brother Tai Nyo was indescribably excited and proud to be recognized by Yun Jian. By then, Yun Jian had already left the casino. Sister Jian, you're still as amazing as before. Qing Yu praised Yun Jian sincerely when she and Yun Jian got to the elevator. Yun Jian hummed in response and said, Emin, go back to the hotel room first. I'll go downstairs to buy something. Okay. Qing Yu nodded at Yun Jian with her bank card in hand. Tong Liwei, who had followed them out of the casino, happened to hear Yun Jian's words. Let's go downstairs to buy some fruits too. It'll quench our thirst. Tong Liwei told Jin Yu and the others after hearing what Yun Jian said. In fact, Tong Liwei wanted to follow them secretly to see what Yun Jian was going to buy. Moving Qing Yu away. Was she trying to do something bad? Yun Jian didn't care about Tong Liwei and the others. She turned around and went downstairs. She went straight to the pharmacy near the Oasis Hotel. Tong Liwei also followed Jin Yu and the others into the fruit shop in the opposite direction of the pharmacy. Jin Yu and the others were buying fruits at the fruit store. Tong Liwei made an excuse to go out and happened to see Yun Jian walking into the pharmacy. She narrowed her eyes and sneaked to the entrance of the pharmacy. Looking inside, Tong Liwei saw Yun Jian standing in front of the gynecological medicine. Tong Liwei wondered if Yun Jian had some gynecological disease. Then, she didn't want anyone to know that she had a gynecological disease, so she secretly came to buy medicine alone? Tong Liwei rolled her eyes. She seemed to have caught Yun Jian's weakness and ran to the Oasis Hotel at the speed of a rocket. She finally caught Yun Jian's weakness. Humph. She immediately called Yun Jian's boyfriend over to take a look and let him know what kind of person Yun Jian was. At the same time, Yun Jian was standing in front of the gynecological medicine in the pharmacy. She did not know that she was standing at the wrong counter. Hello, may I know what you need? The female doctor in the pharmacy asked Yun Jian very politely. Contraceptive. Yun Jian had just uttered these 2 words. The female doctor had already understood what Yun Jian wanted. The hotel was right next door and there were many men and women who had lost control of their bowels. There were also many people who came to buy the morning after pill. This is what you want. The female doctor quickly passed it to Yun Jian. Yun Jian nodded and asked for a cup of hot water from the female doctor. She put the medicine in her palm and was about to put it into her mouth. However, just as Yun Jian was about to put the medicine into her mouth, a slender palm grabbed her wrist. Yun Jian was shocked. Before she could react, the owner of the palm had already smashed all the medicine in Yun Jian's hand onto the ground and crushed them. The medicine and the box were smashed to pieces in front of the female doctor. Yun Jian was shocked. She raised her head and clearly saw Si Yi's handsome and flawless face. His eyebrows were tightly knitted. Chapter 1998. Si Yi's brows were so tightly furrowed that they could squeeze a fly to death. Yun Jian didn't need to think to know that he was very angry at this moment. Yun Jian opened her mouth. She's taking gynecological medicine. She must have contracted some strange disease. Is it some kind of female disease, uterine disease, or some kind of disease that prevents her from having children? I think it must be some kind of shameful disease. After she told Ce about Yun Jian at the pharmacy, Ce kicked the stool away and ran here. Tong Liwei, who had been ignored by Ce, finally chased after him. Tong Liwei was out of breath as she chased after him, but when she saw Ce grabbing Yun Jian's hand and looking flustered and exasperated, Tong Liwei couldn't help but add insult to injury. After saying this, Tong Liwei stood to the side with a solemn expression on her face. She felt that Ce would definitely act like a teenage boy. After discovering that his girlfriend had secretly done something behind his back, he would act as though she had betrayed him. He would act as though he had been betrayed by some kind of super unparalleled emotional betrayal and insist on breaking up with her. Tong Liwei was already smiling. She felt that Yun Jian was definitely done for and that she should be the next in line. Abruptly, Ce, who had crushed the medicine box with his feet, extended his hand in front of the female doctor and Tong Liwei. Ce didn't reach out to hit Yun Jian as Tong Liwei had thought. In fact, that was impossible. Even if Ce shot her to death, he wouldn't bear to touch a single hair on Yun Jian's head. Ce reached out and pulled Yun Jian into his embrace in front of the female doctor and Tong Liwei. Why are you taking birth control pills? This thing is harmful to your health. Don't touch it again, Ce said as she grabbed Yun Jian's hand and walked out. When Yun Jian heard this, she blinked. She had thought that he had said that if she was really pregnant, she would give birth to the child. Now that he saw her taking birth control pills, he would definitely say something about her. However, Ce did not blame Yun Jian for such a small matter. On the contrary, he was angry because Yun Jian wanted to take birth control pills, which were harmful to her health. What if his Xiao Jian had side effects after eating it? Ce was different from other men. Some men saw that their women were not allowed to take birth control pills after they had told them not to. They even secretly took them behind their backs. Now, they were probably going to beat them up. This strange woman kept it from them. But what if Ce hit Yun Jian? Unless the sun exploded. The sky was falling. Ce grabbed Yun Jian's hand and walked out of the pharmacy under Tong Liwei's shocked gaze. Just as they exited the pharmacy, Ce turned to look at Tong Liwei. Tong Liwei blushed from Ce's stare and lowered her head shyly, thinking that Ce would praise her. Who knew that Ce would look at her coldly? Don't let me see you again or I'll cut off your arms and legs and make you wish you were dead. Ce's words were terrifyingly cold, like winter ice that froze one's heart and made them shiver. At this moment, Tong Liwei even felt that Ce's gentle words to Yun Jian were unreal. This man was simply inhuman. Tong Liwei shuddered in fear. Ce pulled Yun Jian away carefully without looking back after that. No matter when, who would dare to criticize his Xiao Jian? Go to hell then. If it were not for the Mid-Autumn Festival being such a beautiful vacation time, Ce would have sent Tong Liwei straight to hell. When Ce pulled Yun Jian away from the pharmacy, Tong Liwei sat on the floor like she was paralyzed. Liang Xiaomin's face was originally drooping as she unwillingly walked in the opposite direction. After taking 2 steps, she suddenly turned around and looked at Yun Jian. She opened her mouth and said what she wanted to say. I'm studying dance at Zhongqing Media University. You can look for me. After saying that, Liang Xiaomin, who was super arrogant, blushed. She suddenly turned around and left with her suitcase. Seeing this, Yun Jian only smiled faintly. Yun Jian didn't go back to school immediately. Instead, she went to the hotel where Fox was staying. After a few days of rest, Fox's injuries had recovered a lot. Yun Jian walked into the hotel directly. Chairman. Fox saw Yun Jian and wanted to stand up. Just lie down. Did something happen in the company? Yun Jian asked softly. The CEO asked me to look for you. 3 months later, the CEO plans to hold a banquet for the CEOs of global multinational companies to get to know each other. The leaders of many assassin organizations will also be invited. Reverse Emperor might also send people over. The CEO heard that you are back, but he couldn't contact you. So, he asked me to ask if you want to attend the banquet. Fox said. It was on his way to look for Yun Jian that Fox was suddenly attacked by Reverse Emperor's men. Yun Jian, who wasn't interested in the banquet, changed her mind when she heard that Reverse Emperor might send people over. She replied simply, I'll go. As expected, Su Zhenglong stopped running after 2 or 3 laps with his hands on his waist. Wei Jingxian ran 5 laps and stopped running. For boys like Su Zhanglong and Wei Jingxian who didn't train themselves often, running for a while was already good enough. Then, the two of them watched as Mo Bufan and Yun Jian ran away. Zhu Huili didn't run much either. After she finished her 5 laps, she drank some water and sat on the steps to wait for Yun Jian. For the past few days, she was the one who finished her run and sat on the steps to wait. At first, Su Zhanglong was still thinking about what Mo Bufan said about Yun Jian being different from other girls. It wasn't until Mo Bufan finished running and Yun Jian was still running that Su Zhanglong started to pay attention to Yun Jian. 45, 46, 47, 50. F***CK. Are you kidding me? She ran 50 laps. 50 laps. A girl actually ran 50 laps so early in the morning. She can't be from the military, right? So fierce. When Yun Jian stopped and returned to her original spot, Su Zhanglong's eyes were already wide open. He was so scared that his soul almost left his body. 50 laps. The big field here was a 400-meter lap, and Yun Jian ran 20 kilometers. This distance was about the same as the morning exercise of the special forces in the military, right? And the time spent was only slightly more than an hour. This girl was too different from other girls. Su Zhanglong was already dumbfounded, and Wei Jingxian was also stunned. Chapter 2002. A normal person would be paralyzed on the ground after jogging for 3 kilometers. After Yun Jian finished running, she took the bottle of water from Zhu Huili, opened the cap, and drank the water in the bottle. After drinking, Yun Jian didn't gasp for breath. Her chest only moved slightly, and she didn't look like she was going to fall to the ground. Both Su Zhanglong and Wei Jingxian were completely dumbfounded. At this moment, after hearing Su Zhanglong say that Yun Jian wasn't from the military, Zhu Huili, who handed the water to Yun Jian, turned his head and glanced at Su Zhanglong. He couldn't help but say what he knew. How do you know that Yun Jian is from the military? She studied in the military school when she was in high school. As he said that, Zhu Huili felt a sense of pride for Yun Jian. F***CK. She's really from the military? Su Zhanglong was just talking nonsense. Now that he heard Zhu Huili's words, Su Zhanglong was stunned. Su Zhanglong was just sighing, but he never thought that Yun Jian was really from the military. Let's go to the club. Yun Jian took the jacket that she had just taken off from Zhu Huili and led the way to the martial arts club. Mo Bufan was also slightly stunned when he heard Zhu Huili's words. Yun Jian actually studied in the military school in high school. It was no wonder that she was so unpredictable. Hey, wait, little girl. You really studied in the military school in high school? Tell me, is the military school fun? Is there any difference between the students in the military school and us who studied in ordinary high schools? I've always fantasized about going to the military school myself. Then I'll be an outstanding soldier. So great, so powerful. Wait. Quick, tell me if your strength in the military academy is at the bottom or what? Su Zhanglong suddenly became interested. He chased after Yun Jian for a long distance and asked many questions. Was he tired? After a while, Yun Jian and the others arrived at the fixed place of the martial arts club. Every club in the university had its own fixed location. If a president wanted to open a club, he had to have a fixed and confirmed location where the members could maintain their interests together. Therefore, sometimes, if one wanted to set up a club without the school subsidies, it would take a lot of money to maintain a club. Mo Bufan's family was rich, and he loved martial arts. Originally, the martial arts club did not have a venue, so Mo Bufan paid for a venue that could be used to practice martial arts. There were all kinds of martial arts practice facilities inside. The venue was not within the university. Therefore, Yun Jian and the others left the university and went to the martial arts club. At this time, it was already close to 7 in the morning. The university students had no classes in the morning and were generally lazy to sleep. However, Mo Bufan requested for the members of the martial arts club to gather at the martial arts club at 6:30 every day. Therefore, no matter how sleepy they were, the members of the martial arts club had already gathered at the martial arts club's training ground. Zhu Huili did not come with them. She had an early class in the morning and had already returned to her dormitory. Before she left, she greeted Yun Jian. At this time, Yun Jian had already taken the lead and walked into the martial arts club's venue. However, what entered her eyes was a mess on the ground. Many things had been overturned. The garbage in the trash cans had been dumped on the ground, and some benches and chairs had been overturned. At this time, the martial arts club's venue should have been filled with members of the martial arts club, but only 1 or 2 girls were still standing there. When Yun Jian saw this, she frowned. What's going on? When Yun Jian had just become the president of the martial arts club, the members of the martial arts club did not welcome her. Although they did not say anything, all the members had given her a dirty look. They rolled their eyes at her while hiding in the dark. At this moment, the 2 girls standing in the same place were obviously frightened by what had happened not long ago. When they saw Yun Jian and Mo Bufan, it was as if they had seen a life-saving straw. They rushed towards Yun Jian and Mo Bufan in large strides. The martial arts club of Dragon City University next door is causing trouble again. When they heard that our club changed to a girl as the president, they ridiculed us with all kinds of words and said a lot of unacceptable things. Just now, Zhou Huntao quarreled with the people of Dragon City University's martial arts club. The people of Dragon City University's martial arts club began to overturn our tables and chairs. They even injured Zhou Huntao. Now, they sent him to the hospital. This was 2F** King scary. Wu Ren's cowardly look was enough to make everyone laugh at him for a while. Zhou Huntao only had a slight concussion, which wasn't very serious. He only needed to rest for 2 days and didn't need any special treatment. Therefore, the members of the martial arts club did not continue their crusade against Wu Ren. They only unanimously decided to inform the school and let Wu Ren's university punish him. Wu Ren couldn't even protect himself, so no one from the Green Bull Gang dared to say another word. The Green Bull Gang, who used to be incomparably arrogant, was now as quiet as a herd of sheep waiting to be slaughtered. At this time, Yun Jian had already walked out of the door. Actually, Yun Jian didn't come today to avenge Zhou Huntao. In Yun Jian's words, Zhou Huntao wasn't as good as Wu Ren, so he deserved to be beaten up and sent to the hospital. This was a world that relied on strength to survive. If you were bullied because you were weak and waited for others to avenge you, then you deserved to be bullied. Yun Jian's main purpose for coming here was to make an oath. Since the martial arts club was taken over by Yun Jian, then no one should think of touching the martial arts club because the martial arts club's backer was her. Just as the members of the martial arts club were feeling proud of Yun Jian's strength, Yun Jian, who was about to leave the Green Bull Gang, suddenly stopped and turned around in front of everyone. When the Green Bull Gang saw this, they thought that Yun Jian was going to make a move on them again. They were so scared that they almost found a corner to hide in. The members of the martial arts club were a little proud. Even Su Zhanglong and Wei Jingxian, who weren't members of the martial arts club, were infected by the atmosphere and felt a little proud. At this time, Yun Jian cast a sidelong glance at all the members of the martial arts club in front of everyone. She said with a cold face, not allowing anyone to refute her. Tomorrow at 4:50 a.m., gather at the school field. From tomorrow onwards, everyone will receive training. I'll make it clear in advance that there are no useless people in the martial arts club. If you can't take it, then leave now. As expected of someone who had studied in the military academy in high school, he was 2F** King awesome. This aura. Don't be too strong. Su Zhanglong's words were full of admiration. His words shocked everyone in the martial arts society, Wu Ren, and the Green Bull Gang. What? Did she go to a military school in high school? For a girl like her to be able to enter a military school for boys, she's really amazing. No wonder he is so strong. Everyone was talking about it. However, at that time, the The members of the Martial Arts Society and the Green Bull Gang did not know one thing. Not only did Yun Jian study in a military school, she was also the top student in Min City's military school. Team Monarch, slashing God herself. Zhu Huili's morning class was also considered a morning class for the club, so she left early. Zhu Huili liked to draw, so she joined the art club before Yun Jian joined the Martial Arts Society. Yun Jian and Zhu Huili were in the same class, so they did not have any classes in the morning. There was a Chinese class in the afternoon. There were very few classes in the university. There were at most 2 classes a day, and the weekend was a break. A class was about 2 hours long, so they just had to get to the classroom before class started. For the Chinese class in the afternoon, some students skipped class and did not come. Yun Jian and Zhu Huili came to class on time and ended class on time. The class started at 1:30 in the afternoon and ended at 3:30. Yun Jian and Zhu Huili stood up and were about to return to their dormitory when they were stopped by their class monitor. Rather than being stopped, it was more accurate to say that the entire class was stopped by the class monitor. The class monitor in the university usually left everything to the class monitor and rarely came to the classroom. The number of times a student could see the class monitor in a semester could be counted on one hand. Students would usually look for the class monitor if they needed help. The class monitor of Yun Jian's freshman computer science class 13 was a tall and skinny boy with average looks. The boy held a statistics sheet in his hand. After calling out to the class, he announced his plan. I applied to borrow the school's gymnasium this morning. I'm planning to have a small freshman party tonight. We'll play games and get to know each other. Is that okay? 8. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.